The first site I remember using was probably to look up some kind of cheat codes or walkthroughs for video games back in the day. We got internet relatively late, like in 97, 98, so all of my friends who had internet before we had it, we would go over there and look up game websites and how to, get through certain parts of video games we were playing at the time.
In the early 90s, I was a big comic book fan, and so I remember going to Spawn.com, and Spawn was one of my favorite comic characters when I was 11, 12, 13. And it was not a very good website, but it was, just in the way that early 90s websites were not very good. But it was dark, and I liked the art.
Oh, the sound of AOL actually reminds me of a very, conjures up an emotion in me of being at home during breaks and wanting to desperately hear from my friends. So I would check my email. I must have had an AOL account, but checking my email, oh my God, as much as I could. And so waiting for that, you've got mail, and at the time you really didn't get spam. It would be legitimate mail, and so just hearing that, and then the disappointment when you just heard you connected and that's it.
Being upstairs and yelling down to my mom that she was picking up the phone and killing my internet connection. No, it's just that constant battle of trying to figure out who was on the phone and if you were going to have time to download or whatever you were doing.
It definitely reminds me of Net Zero and all of those CDs that they would send out all the time. I definitely had Net Zero for a couple years. But I think the dial-up sound also reminds me of indie bands. I feel in the early 2000s would always use it as samples. They were already kind of being nostalgic about it, I think, so.
I think the one thing that stands out to me the most especially about the Dole site, is their attempt at kind of humor and some kind of meme generating, maybe early before memes were even a thing, as the Dole Camp had their the dog icon. You could download the little icon of Dole's dog. I guess he somehow, I can't even remember, was a figurehead of the campaign as Dole's dog, and so you could download a little icon of the dog and share it among people, I guess. I don't know who you would share it with, but yeah, I think that was one of the things. And the fact that you could, on the Space Jam, that you would download desktops and screensavers. I think, the times when you would download a screensaver for a movie is probably maybe long past, but that was a bright spot in our history.
I think now it's easy to say what you don't like about it, just because it's so outdated. I think what I like about the Space Jam one is it was, at the time, it was so innovative. And yeah, like I said, now I can say that I don't like it because it's outdated, and there's everything about it is just bad now. But yeah, at the time it was the cool hip new thing.
It's mint.com, and the reason I like it is just it's really practical. It's really easy to use. They have a couple bugs that I've noticed that I think that they can improve on, but it really helps me in my day-to-day, and I actually find myself using it almost multiple times a week. And it's free and it's practical, and it really helps budget.
My favorite web app would be Airbnb.com. I use it several times a year. I've been using it for about a little over 5.5, almost 6 years now, and I've stayed at nearly 30 places. And so it's one of the few web apps that I'm really proud of my reviews on there from hosts that have me stay. I've never actually been a host, but I'm a guest. And so when I'm using Airbnb, I'm usually excited because I'm thinking about somewhere I'm going to be traveling to, and that's fun. So it's always a good positive experience. So it's exploring and thinking about my next trip.
My favorite web app is Highlights Magazine that you find in children's doctor's offices, especially when the object hunt isn't done yet. My least favorite web app is also Highlights Magazine, but it's when the kids in the doctor's office have already found the objects and the banana and the flamingo and all those things, and then they're already circled.
I have no doubt in my mind about what that one is, and that is GoDaddy. GoDaddy wins the award for all-time worst website. In so many ways, it's truly, truly awful. They've made it become a huge achievement to go out and simply buy a domain. And I haven't really had to use it much in the last couple of years, I'd say, but the times that I have had to do it, it's been more to migrate people away from that site. But yeah, they've made it just professionally difficult to use. I'm sure they have some business reasons for doing that, but again, I can't stand it.
My least favorite app right now is Yahoo and everything it has. Not just because of the data breach. I'm a Yahoo email user and I just haven't switched because it's a pain and everything I have is linked to Yahoo and I don't want to switch it. But Flickr is a pain, Yahoo is a pain, the whole thing is just clunky and really difficult to use. So that right now is my least favorite web application.
I think that offline first is going to become a lot bigger in the next 20 years. I think that we're going to start building applications that are intended to be offline and specifically for mobile usage because data is expensive and I can definitely see the technology emerging that way. So it's exciting to see and I really think that we're going to expand in that direction.
I really am excited about VR. I think VR is something that's really interesting and you can do a lot of really cool things with that. That being said, I don't know if people are going to want to browse the web with a thing on their head, like that they have right now, but it's hard to say where the technology is going to go. I would hope like more of a 3D interactive experience. I think everything's going to get a little bit more immersive. And more ads. We're going to have ads everywhere. Just everywhere.
It's a difficult question, and I think that if the next 20 years are anything like the last 20 years of the web, then I think that the next 20 years are going to be pretty darn unpredictable. But I think it's safe to say that the internet is going to be integrated even more with the physical world. Beyond just like being able to surf the web on your refrigerator. I think that I think that the internet is gonna be present in a lot more places in very different ways.
In the next 20 years, I foresee there being a blurred line between the concept of digital and non-digital. So we'll have more tools that are digital in nature, but they'll feel more tactile in a weird way, I suppose. And so I think it'll just become part of everything we do in a way that like appliances, I mean, the things we're already kind of seeing happen, but I think it'll be a blurrier line where you won't feel like you're working with digital stuff. It'll just, like the concept of being digital will probably just go away, and the things that'll just be stuff. We'll stop calling things the web or digital, and then they're just things. So that's what I see. Just, we won't think about digital anymore because everything will have some concept of digital.